And to further explain the implication of this action by the DSS and the National Nigerian Correctional Service alongside the court judgment, we have the former Assistant Director, DSS, Dennis Amakri, who joins us live via Zoom. And on the other hand, we also have a lawyer, Jide Ologun, who is also live for us via Zoom. Good to have you join us. I want to begin with you, Mr. Amakri, because I'm sure Nigerians are looking for explanation. This is not the first time we are seeing the DSS rearrest someone that the court has said is free to go pending when they fulfill their bail conditions. We saw that in 2015 with Dasuki at the Kuje prison gate, and we're seeing this again today. Explain to Nigerians who are wondering, on what grounds or what informs the DSS decision to rearrest someone that the court has said, you know, can go pending when the bail conditions are met?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it was quite a drama there today. When you look at it, the order to, the court has not given any order to the DSS not to, except there is a persistent order telling the DSS not to. Otherwise, rearresting suspects is a normal thing. It's even allowed under the law. And this is not the first time it has happened. So there are other charges, with Emefiele, and these charges are going to be pursued. They are just in court for just one charge, which is the possession of firearms, although his lawyers say that it is a frivolous charge. But there is an international law that says that if you are a diplomat and you are found with guns, then you stop being a diplomat, you become a soldier. So of course, remember that there are other charges on terrorism, financing that that are hanging over this guy, and of course, they have to pursue it. There is no way they could have let this correctional services carry this man away, because they will let him go. In fact, if you listen very carefully, it was his lawyer that suggested it in the first place, that they would want him to be in the custody of the correctional services. Now, we know the correctional services. We know even Boko Haram has come there to break into their place and release people they have. And then, of course, this guy is a flight risk. It's a flight risk. So I think everything is in order today, for them to rearrest him.
Mm. Let's take the conversation to Mr. Jide Ologun. I mean, you've listened to the former DSS assistant director there. He talked about how there's no way that the DSS would let Emefiele go, considering the fact that, look, they don't trust the NCS itself and their facilities, and that he's a flight risk. I want to get your thoughts on that statement and then your assessment of what played out today in court.
Thank you very much. This is a serious indictment on the federal government of Nigeria if we come out to say that we do not trust the correctional facilities to operate with integrity. And that being on one side. Now, why did we submit to the jurisdiction of the court to interpret the laws and grant Emefiele bail? This is a bailable offense. And now that the court made a pronouncement that he should be released by DSS and kept with the prison's facilities, DSS, by action, came up by body language that no, we will not respect the decision of the court. I think this is another indictment. At the commencement of this tenure of our President and Commander-in-Chief, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, DSS was in Lagos to barricade the entrance to the EFCC office. And the president gave a command that, no, you cannot do that. You see, my concern is the gross disrespect, seemingly, to the judiciary in this matter. It's on record that there was no counter affidavit before by the federal government opposing the bill. And if you are saying that this is a flight risk, He's so powerful and he can intimidate the witnesses. You know, it's then maybe the court should have left the DSS to resolve this matter extrajudicially. That is my concern. If we are going to portray
but Mr.
Nigeria
Logo,
as a
I just want
serious
to
nation,
apologies for jumping in, but I just want to. He says, you know, Mr. Macri said there is no part of that order where the court said that he cannot be rearrested. Would that be considered a loophole that DSS took advantage of?
So, except we are saying a judge should speak 7 million words while giving an order. The order is clear enough with due respect to the rule of law. He's been granted bail. While waiting for him to fulfill the conditions of the bail, let him be in the custody of the correctional services. I quite align myself with the distrust expressed by Mr. Macri concerning the facilities we're talking about on the other side. And that's why I'm saying it's an indictment on the nation. You see, for me, I think it's a way of saying, okay, the judge has spoken, but we do not trust that the words of the judge will, you know, be performed. And again, let's move ahead. When you talk about the criminal justice ecosystem, we have 3 solid pillars. You have thorough investigation, followed by, you know, diligent prosecution, where you need to prosecute before a committed judiciary. So when you proceed onto prosecution without sufficient investigation, then we are not portraying excellence. I'm sorry to say that.
All right, Mr. Logo, let me take the conversation to, because of time, I want to take the conversation to Mr. Macri, just to allow him to respond to some of the things you've said. Mr. Macri, I would like you to respond to what Mr. Logo has said, but I also wanted to talk about this, because there seemed to be some level of, you know, the sense of how the DSS relates with other sister agencies. Mr. Logo rightly mentioned, you know, how it took the president's intervention when the DSS, you know, occupied the office of the EFCC here in Lagos, and how the president had to intervene. And, you know, people wonder why the DSS has that kind of, you know, somewhat antagonistic relationship with sister agencies.
Well, I'm sorry that you misread everything. The situation with the EFCC and the DSS in Lagos is a non-issue. It's a non-issue, you know, because that particular premises belong to the DSS. And they have asked, the EFCC came there to ask if they could be there until they get their own building. You know, I don't know. We don't have to waste our time on this one anyway. But it was a non-issue. And of course, when the president said, let them be, because they could get their own place later, they were let go. And let's be very careful when we are thinking about what the president says and didn't say. Because many people believe that the DSS is operating on their own. You know, the last time I was discussing this in a different forum, and I told them, I said, the DSS, the lawyers were after the DSS. You must release him. The DG DSS has already, is in contempt of court. He should be arrested. He should be dismissed. He should, all kinds of things they said. Now they can see that it is the Office of the Attorney General that is prosecuting this case. It's not a DSS issue. DSS is a custodian. It's a custodian. And when it comes to cases of national security, I think they are the ones to do it. I don't think that man is actually flight risk. And I don't think we want to let him go to other places where he will disappear and be talking from Sweden next week.
All right, thank you so much for talking to us, former Assistant Director, DSS, Dennis Amakri.
Thank you for having me.
Let me just ask you, finally, Mr. Logo, you know, the proper procedures and what you expect to happen from now, and then the implication that issues like this, you know, the sentiments around issues like this could you know, have on further cases that the DSS is pursuing.
You know, my respectful position is that if the pronouncements of the courts will not be respected, then there may be no point approaching the court. We may just as well go ahead and use the executive fiat to carry out whatever we want to carry out. That is my concern. I know the DSS is doing a legitimate assignment, but imagine what happened today, the fight between the DSS and the correctional facilities operators, despite the direct and clear verdict given by the court. That is my concern. And it's a big issue if we can no longer trust the correctional facility to give us effective custody of a defendant in a matter. Emefiele pleaded not guilty. That means, okay, let's release him on bail, let him fulfill the conditions of bail, and let him be brought to court to answer to this case. That is why it's important we carry out sufficient investigation before we proceed on this matter.
We will see how we will see how the DSS will respond to all of this in the coming days and in its next line of action. Thank you so much for talking to us. I'm lawyer Jide Ologun.
Thank you. God bless Nigeria.